Hey everybody, Greg Pruitt here, president of the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance. Welcome to episode 4 of Guns with Greg. Today we are talking about firearm preemption and a couple cities that have received notifications from the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance in the last couple weeks regarding violations of the firearm preemption statute. Before we do all that, please be sure to subscribe to our channel, whether you're watching on YouTube or Rumble. Especially subscribe to Rumble, just because we're less worried about getting censored and all that kind of crap like there as we are on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our Rumble channel no matter what. Even if you prefer to watch on YouTube, we always tell people to get on the Rumble channel and subscribe there to make sure you're getting everything regardless. Okay, what is firearm preemption? This has been a really big topic in the last couple of weeks as we go through rodeos and fairs and all that kind of stuff. Essentially, most states have firearm preemption, and the purpose of it is to basically say that the state wants firearm regulations, which there shouldn't be any, but we'll get back to that. They want it to be uniform throughout the state. So you're not traveling from Boise, where firearms are severely restricted, and then you get out to Nampa and it's totally fine. And then you get up to Haley or somewhere out there in a bluer city and it's banned again. And so rather than gun owners having to worry about committing felonies or misdemeanors for simply exercising the right to keep and bear arms, excuse me, most states have adopted some form of a firearm preemption statute. Ours needs an overhaul. It needs some actual teeth to it because the legislature shockingly didn't want to hold government accountable for violating the statute. And so we have, almost since the founding of the ISAA, I would say we started probably in the fall of 2013, doing what we called the Firearm Preemption Project. And the goal was to go through all these old city ordinances that probably hadn't been updated in a long time and start sending out letters saying, hey, by the way, in case you didn't know, in 2008, the Idaho legislature passed a firearm preemption statute. And then in 2013, they closed up a loophole that had been left in there. So as an organization, we actually asked the legislature, are you going to notify the cities and counties about this law? And they said, no, we're not going to do that. Okay, so I guess we'll do all the work. And so I spent hours and hours and probably days and days and days sifting through code throughout the state, trying to find all the ordinances that may be in violation. Some cities and counties were fine. Either they never had ordinances that regulated firearms, or they had already changed it after 2008. So we have, for the last, almost 13 years, 12 years now, been focused on trying to do everything we could to get it all in compliance. And on top of not just ordinances, a lot of these ordinances that we found were from, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, really old stuff, right? That the city councils probably didn't even know existed to some extent. And so we sent off letters. 50-something letters fairly quick that went out. And in addition to those letters, we also have fought numerous anti-gun signs that have been posted on public property, right? And so what is happening with the firearm preemption statute is that the cities and counties essentially have no regulatory authority over concealed weapons. Okay, even the legislature doesn't have authority over open carry. So when we're talking about weapons on public property, they're just not allowed to do it. Okay. However, there's a little bit of a caveat to that, and we'll get to that here in just a moment. So the cities and counties, the only thing they can really regulate is the discharge of firearms. And even that there's obvious exceptions for self-defense and stuff like that. So they can't regulate possession, and they've got to make sure their ordinances are in compliance with state law. And so we have almost to date, I want to say close to 100 violations that we have found. And for the most part, most cities and counties have worked with us really well. We haven't had any pushback on most of them. There has been pushback in places like Coeur d'Alene and Ketchum, and places where you kind of expect some pushback. And we just take care of business in those situations, and gun owners flood their emails and phone calls and all that good stuff. 10 city council meetings, and just, speak out and make their voices heard until it's brought back into compliance. So this latest, in the last couple of weeks, we've sent out 2 more. We don't see them as much anymore because most of the codes I found a long time ago. Clearly, I have not found all of them, because one of them is from Kooskia, which is up north for those that don't know. And I don't even honestly remember. I don't know if I got tipped on this or if I just started looking at some smaller towns just to make sure I had gotten all the smaller towns. But Kooskia has a section of code. It's found in 5-1-9, B1 and B2. And B1 criminalizes carrying pistols, revolvers, and other weapons. I mean, it's just a blanket gun ban in the city of Kooskia, which has probably been violated like, I don't know how many times in the last however many years. This code comes from 1959, right? This is a long, long time ago. Probably one of the older codes that I remember finding on this. So they do have to adjust that, or actually, let me phrase that. They need to get rid of that first section. B2 talks about you cannot discharge of firearms within city limits. And there's been quite a few of these that we've seen. And and here's the thing. They make an exception for police doing the regular scope of their duties. I don't remember exactly what the code said verbatim, but you also have to have an exemption. If you're going to do something like that and you're going to list an exemption, well, now you've got to have an exemption for self-defense. Now, am I worried that if you go and defend yourself that they're going to try and charge you with this? No, we're not. What we're doing is say, look, you're going to update the code. Let's just update it and bring it into compliance. Most cities and counties have had this discharge of firearms within city limits crap. They just end up scrapping it, because what's the point of, like, you can't discharge it in city limits unless you do this one thing. Okay, there's already going to be some laws and stuff that probably cover most of what they would need anyway. So most of them will just get rid of it, or they'll add some line about unless done in the lawful, self-defense, yada, 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 whatever. Anyway, so we offered Kooskia the same thing. Hey, we're here to help you rewrite your ordinance. If you want help rewriting it, it's not that hard. Honestly, the better thing to do is just get rid of it and not worry about it, especially since the code changes. And that's we've had a few cities and counties that ended up adding something to the effect of, and doesn't violate anything in 18-3302, or something along those lines. And so they'll list the Idaho Code in case the code changes. So that was from Kooskia. Again, so that, I want to say we sent them a letter on the 15th or 18th. Let's see. Yeah, 15th or 18th. So it's been about 10 days. They don't meet too often. It's a city council that meets once a month. I think they have September 10th as their next city council meeting. So we're working to try and get in contact with, I talked to the clerk. I said, hey, if I send this email to you, will you get it to all the clerks? That's typically, to all the city council members and mayor. That's typically how it works. They'll get it out to everybody. So we sent the letter to the clerk, who will give it to them. I don't know how often they check their emails. It's a small town. Shoot, I don't even remember. I want to say it was less than 1,000, maybe way less. Let's see. Population. Oh, yeah. 556 as of 2024. So, small town, a lot of those folks are usually working full-time or retired, and not really, probably don't get a whole lot of emails from organizations and that kind of stuff. So fairly uncommon. So if I don't hear from them soon, I'll probably reach out to the clerk and just say, hey, we want to verify that the letter got to them, they acknowledged it, and we'll go from there. So that was from the city of Kooskia. Now let's go to the city of Eagle, where we had actually several gun owners that reached out to us and said, hey, there is a sign. Let me throw it up right here on the screen. I didn't realize that was going to take up the whole screen, but that's okay. So this sign is at the City of Eagle's archery range. It's actually supposed to be this is a whole other story we'll have to get into another day, but it's supposed to be an entire, so off to the left, over that fence and off to the left is the archery range. You can't really see it in this zoomed in picture. So that's the archery range. And then up the road was supposed to be this whole other, I think there were a rifle range and maybe a shotgun or pistol range or something. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. There's this huge controversy right now in the city of Eagle regarding this shooting range. Anyway, so somebody said, hey, this is city-owned property. Can they just say no firearms or weapons allowed on this property? And I said, no. No, you can't do that. Number one, I thought it was kind of funny because it says no firearms or weapons allowed on the property. And I thought, well, I guess I'd have to go back and check Idaho Code to see if a freaking bow is a weapon. I'm pretty sure it would fall under the definition of weapon. And in this case, I guess you don't get to take your bow on the archery range. So I don't know who put this up. I don't know if the city did. Somebody asked if we're sure it's the city. I said, I don't really know. It's on city property and the sign's up. So either way, the city needs to ensure that the sign comes down. But a lot of gun owners, or excuse me, folks that do archery carry a sidearm, especially when they're out hunting, right? You're out hunting bear or whatever, and I assume, elk or whatever, that you're going to have a sidearm with you. Maybe not. I don't bow hunt, but I'm pretty sure if I did, I'd still want my sidearm, much more accurate with that anyway. But this sign cannot stay. So that sign, we notified the city today, the city of Eagle, that sign is, and I know what they're trying to do. We're not trying to, be a pain in the butt. It's just, look, it's a violation. We don't, as gun owners, we can't allow any little bit of violations, right? That's how California and all these other states have fallen, is because they don't stand up and fight. They didn't stand up and fight or fight hard enough or whatever. And then little by little, people try to get away with stuff. And I'm not saying that's the case here, but that's why we treat it all the same. Look, if there's a violation, there's a violation, and we're going to just talk to the city and say, hey, so I emailed we have these letters. Okay, look, there's the picture of the sign there. And so I emailed them our letter today and said, please get the sign taken down. I assume what they don't want is people shooting the archery targets with firearms. Okay. So what they should have put up in place of this sign is archery only, archery range only, or something along those lines, so that people weren't using firearms on the archery range. But you can't just put up this blanket no weapons allowed on this property. They can't even put up a sign that says no discharge of firearms allowed on this property. Okay, because again, self-defense still rules the day. You have a right to defend yourself. I think the easiest way to do it is archery range only. If you're gonna have to create it, I assume that they probably just purchased this online somewhere. It's got a barcode on it. So I assume they just purchased it online. Just make a freaking sign. It's not that complicated. I didn't actually put a picture of the other sign on here that's all the rules and regulations regarding the use of the range, and it's a bunch. So they can clearly make a custom sign. All you got to do is make another one. Again, even if somebody has fired on the range when they're not supposed to, you still can't put up this sign, City of Eagle. So hopefully we'll hear from them soon, get that sign taken down. But that's what we've done over and over and over again. No other gun group's going to do this kind of stuff on the local level, especially. That's the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, our members and supporters. You guys have been incredible and finding this stuff. I would have never known about this. Somebody reached out and said, hey. So the codes, most of the codes I've found myself just because, doing research and stuff. But you would not believe the amount of signs that we've had to get taken down over the years all across the state. So if you want to track the work that we're doing, I think I can share my screen here. Okay. See if this works. Okay. So if you go to our website and you go to Action Center and then you scroll down, you'll see here. So Action Center, and at the bottom it says Preemption Project, which I've already clicked on. So then you go to our preemption project, and this just gives you, I don't, honestly, there's probably a bunch on here. We kind of stopped updating this on the old website for quite a while. So this is not a complete list of everything we've done, but if you see anything with a 2 next to it, that means there's been multiple violations. I don't know if we've ever had, I don't see Kooskia on here. They're not, I might have to put them in alphabetical order. It might make it a lot easier to read this crap. I don't see Eagle on here either. If it is, then you guys are faster readers than me. Anyway, so this is all the ones that it's a lot of them. It's probably not even close to all of them because, again, after so many years, we just kind of stopped. There were so many that we stopped. But you can see the entire freaking state. Okay, so there's several categories. This is the ones. No, actually, I think I did put that on there. Other victories have not been tracked in the last 5 years. So yeah, we have not updated this nearly as frequently. So these are all the ones, the stuff that's been changed. Either codes have been changed or signs have been taken down. The next one here, actually, I think up above this is any hearings. So oftentimes when these cities and counties change their ordinances, they have to go through public hearings, usually 3 readings. And we'll put a list. If there's any public hearings scheduled, we'll put that on here. Okay. And then here's the ones that have changed. Here are, let's see, these are the people that are cities or counties that we've sent letters to, and they've responded to our inquiry, but they have not yet got into compliance. Okay, so we're not waiting on anyone right now. And then here's something we're gonna do a little bit different, is hyperlinking stories about these issues for you guys. So this is the list of municipalities that we've sent letters to regarding codes or signs, but the municipality has not yet responded to our inquiry. Okay, so this one up here was they've responded, but they're not fixed. This one is we've sent them a letter and we just haven't heard back from them yet. And then this is municipalities that have refused to make changes. This one, we had a couple cities from like 7 years ago, and we're going to go back through. So we'll just take it down for now and resend some stuff. And when we do, we'll put it back in the queue. But this will be a good way to do this. So if Kooskia decides, we would hope that they would, to change their code and they end up with a hearing on it at one of the city council meetings, then we'll stick it up here and put the date and the time, the location, and all that good stuff. So, all right, how do I stop sharing screen? Anyway, I hope that's been beneficial. If you guys see stuff, please let us know. Now, before everybody jumps in and starts emailing me on everything in your town, let me make some clarifications on what the Firearm Preemption statute covers. And kind of the Idaho Supreme Court kind of screwed us over in the last, in 2023, in the last couple of years, because they're now saying that so cities and counties can't regulate firearms on public property, but somehow they can give that authority to a private entity. That the property is not sold, it hasn't been transferred permanently or anything like that. You just go out and get a temporary permit and you can ban whatever you want to ban, apparently, according to the Idaho Supreme Court. We don't agree with that, but it is what it is right now until we can get the state statute fixed. So what this really covers is public property ran by the cities and counties, events taking place. So if a rodeo was ran, or if the fair, like the Western Idaho Fair in Ada County, was run by the county, therefore they're not allowed to ban guns on public property. However, the Caldwell Night Rodeo, a private organization using public property, decided to have a gun-free zone. That is allowed by the Idaho Supreme Court. Again, I don't agree with it. I think it's stupid on multiple levels. But that is allowed. Hospitals, okay? Most hospitals are ran by private organizations. And even though they receive public funding, the Idaho Supreme Court is going to say, oh, it's a private entity. They can do whatever they want, even though they're taking public money. So that kind of stuff, again, we're not saying we agree with that. We're trying to fight to change the statute, but that's what we're looking for. If you see a sign in a public park in a city or a county building, let us know. We'll help take care of it. If there's an event, if your county is running an event or your city is running an event and they try to ban guns, let us know. They're not allowed to do that. So those are the types of instances that we're looking for. If you guys have that kind of stuff, you can email me, president, all spelled out, at idahosaa.org. President at idahosaa.org. Here, I'll throw it up on the screen for you real quick. I don't know if I can add this one too. I'm not really sure how this works. Nope, it's going to replace it. There you go. Well, either way, president at idahosaa.org. If you have any questions or concerns about a potential firearm preemption issue, we'll let you know. We'll research it. We'll look into it and see what we can do if there is indeed a violation. So that's all I've got for now, guys. Thanks for joining us on the latest episode of Guns with Greg. I am the host, Greg Pruitt. I'm the president of the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to join up with the ISA. If you like this type of work, if you like a gun group that's on the ground in the trenches doing all this for you guys at the lowest local levels that we can, be sure to reach out. We'd love to hear from you. So thank you. Take care. And God bless.